Kwame. If this is your first time seeing us, it's good to see you too. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for being a fan and a family. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the Electricity Act. We've talked about the Student Loan Act. If you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out after this video. On today's episode, I have interesting guests with me and I will allow them introduce themselves, starting from my right.
Good morning. My name is Michael.
Hi everyone, my name is Itunu Oluwa.
Thank you very much. On today's episode, as I've said earlier, we're going to be talking about the Electricity Act. We all know that ever since our new president was sworn into power, he has been signing into law one bill or the other. And today's episode, he recently signed the Electricity Act 2023, and we've all been excited because it feels like something new, something good is coming, out of it for Nigerians. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the problems of electricity first. We'll talk about the provisions of this act and how we feel it can impact us positively. And lastly, we'll give a recommendation. But what have been your experience with poor electricity in Nigeria so far?
Okay, so from my own point of view, good morning, listeners again. So I have a lot to say. I can tell you as a Nigerian, since I was born, up till now, I've never seen any improvements in our electricity. But I heard again that the president just signed a new bill, blah, 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 like that, coming with probably some improvements into the current state that we have. But I need to tell you that anytime the government of this nation signs any bill like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what is, I'm sure that it's going to favor some set of people. That's my own conclusion. I don't know about you. This act is coming to favor some people, and some top people in the government are already happy that something. This is how we are going to be. We are coming to make some amounts of money and all that. So I need to tell you that unfortunately the act has been signed, but in this country that we are, Nigerians. I'm a Nigerian. I can tell you that I hope this thing works, because if you go out there, for example, where I live, electricity is so bad, and now the president is saying that he has signed a new bill, and I need to inform him, if you can listen to us, that electricity, we need so much improvement in our electricity, act or no act. There was a previous act. What has that one? What has it done? Now you're coming up with a new one. What are you bringing differently? Are you bringing foreign people to come and assist us, so that there is no interruption of power supplies again? And again, like I need to tell you, implementation is so key as well. So we need this government, as he has been, like you said earlier, he has been signing so much bills, this, that, he has sacked so many people. I guess he wants improvement.
Yeah.
So I want implementation. We need not to be having blackouts everywhere, especially in the rural areas.
You're really passionate.
I'm talking from the layman side, because I've faced a lot of things like that. So electricity, we need so much improvement. I hope this bill will really come to help us. Yes.
Yeah, I feel Michael's pain to a great extent. I mean, my years in the university, there was no light at all. So what we had to do was depend on generator, and we had to pay for gen every week. We were paying in my hostel every week for us to be able to run gen at particular hours of the day, especially in the evening, when we are sure that everyone will be back home to the hostel. And there was also, I think a couple of weeks ago, I did a post on Twitter about the kind of electricity challenges that people have faced, right, in their individual homes and they talked about how they had to, because most people keep food in the fridge, they come back home and the food is all spoils. People will sell frozen stuff.
Not in this economy, for heaven's sake.
I mean, they lose so much.
Yes,
they lose so much. So it's not, I mean, offices want to work, there's no electricity, you have to keep running gen, you spend so much. So if you want to now like do a budget for the month and all, you have to incorporate money for running generator and all. There was a time that I traveled home to the north, and then there was no light at all, and naturally in that part of the country we usually have light 24/7, to the point that if they should take light for 30 minutes, everyone will be like, oh wow, what's wrong, Aku Oruyi, like how are you coping with this heat, like 30 minutes, it's like a major problem. So when I moved to the southwest, and then for education, and then I realized that for years no lights. I mean, it was so crazy for me the first day, second day, like what is this also part of Nigeria? And this goes to say that there are some parts of the country that to an extent they enjoy a fair amount of electricity, and there are some parts that do not at all enjoy electricity. And this this is to say to you, Michael, that there is hope in this act. Because what this act has done is to now decentralize the electricity market. So it is no longer it's no longer just under the purview of the federal government alone. So what the act has done is to empower state governments to manage their electricity markets. So if you are in Ekiti State and there is no light, you can hold your governor responsible once they have their electricity laws. So the new act provides that every state government can now manage their market, so they can decide how they want to generate electricity, how they want to supply it, how they want to make sure that it reaches everybody in their community. So if you have any issues as to electricity, you can, quickly speak up, talk to your governor and all of that. And you'll see that there are even awareness opportunities, that there are some radio programs whereby people call in and then clamor. So if road is the challenge you are facing in your community, you can call and say this particular road is bad, it has been causing several accidents. If it's electricity, so when people do that in the state, it is difficult for it to get to the federal government. But if it is within the state and the state government has the power to make provision for that thing, it is easy for them to like take action in time, and it is easy for you to call them out as well. So with this act, the state government have that responsibility, but the challenge now remains that it is until each state government have their own electricity law before they can now take this power or this responsibility upon themselves. So for right now, we have electricity law in Lagos, in Kaduna, and I think Edo State. So all the other 33 states, no state law.
What she has said earlier about the act providing for decentralization and giving power to state governments to engage in the production and the distribution of electricity, I feel this will serve well to Nigerians, in the sense that once the responsibility has shifted from the federal government to the state government, the flexibility, the accountability that you can actually hold your state governor accountable. Yeah. There are some roads that are just bad in Nigeria, and people will feel like we don't have to fix it because it is federal government's responsibility. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I feel that would help, and it will allow, unserved areas and less served areas that don't have electricity in the states, but because it's coming from the federal government, no one is really paying attention to the suburbs. Yeah. So once it's on the state has to fix it. And it will also allow the states to find other means through which they can generate electricity, other energies, maybe solar, whatever they want to use. So I think it's a good one for Nigerians. If this act is implemented, it will do us good.
Okay, so to support what you've both said, I remember there is this discussion that our government has been deliberating on, but there's never an implementation, and that's the issue. It's something different from what we're saying. That's the issue of being state police or no state police. Mm-hmm. You can see some of them coming to say, please, you have to bring up an idea of state police, because it will make our policemen being respected more and make them more effective. Because if you go to places like US, the state governor, they have departmental offices. Each state has its own power on their policemen. There's nothing like IG, Inspector General of Police is talking from Abuja. to come and bring down your own police in your own state. There is nothing like that. So if government can also bring this, if they can do this thing, if this act can help our government to make sure that each state have their own electricity distribution companies, it will make it easy, effective,
I also feel it will breed, healthy competitions among states.
Yeah.
When you see Lagos State is doing fine, what like why won't Oyo State want to
do
that?
fine?
Delta
So
State,
with that,
and all that.
And on the you mentioned something just now. Okay, so now when the distribution part of it. So now if the states once the states now have power over their own market, then they can have, because they have to also provide that individuals, companies, private companies can also generate a certain level of power. So it's no longer just within the purview of the state. So within the purview of the federal government. So in the states, in each state, you can have, it will bring more investment, right? So people will want to come in and say, let's start a new company, or let's support a company that is working in the generation of electricity. So you have more companies, private organizations, companies coming in to ensure that they also put more resources into the energy market. Yes, job creation as well. And that will help to get to the unserved and underserved communities as well. Absolutely. For each state now, so they can also bank on their natural resources in the generation of their electricity. So they no longer have to maybe sell to the federal government, or the federal government coming to just take your natural resources. So you now look at what do we even have in our state that can help us in our electricity generation, and they can make use of it. And mind you, the act also provides for implementation plan. So it's not just about just signing it into law. They have also made provision that in 6 months after the commencement, that they are going to have a stakeholder conference whereby they will have to they have to highlight policies and how they can actually implement to ensure that they get the results of why they have even passed that bill into law. So they are not just going to leave it as it is, because they have different the states that will now have to generate their own laws, and states that already had their own laws, they also have to review and come together, both the private sector, the government, and even NGOs that are working on fighting up for human rights and all of this, that are bringing up class actions for underserved communities and all. They will all come together and highlight the issues that they faced in the past, and how they can ensure that this act help them to find proper solution to the electricity problem in each state. So when they do that, they'll be able to say, okay, this is how we want to this is how each state should work with the private body, this should be the distribution companies, this is the limits, this is the extent. So they are just going to look at all of those modalities to ensure that at the end of the day, the act is not redundant like most of the acts that we have in Nigeria, but that they are able to implement and work on it.
Yes, implementation is actually an important one, because if you go through most of our laws in Nigeria, you see some provisions, you'll be like, this is a beautiful provision, right?
Absolutely.
You see that the minds that came together and did that, they were really brilliant minds, but on the long run, everything just
it's only in theory. There's no practicality.
It's a beautiful one.
Yeah. So that we don't forget, I also want to mention that the act now provides for offenses, which means, so before now they prosecute for, I've seen different cases in court whereby people have been prosecuted for stealing electricity or cutting lines, tampering with meter and all of that at the magistrate court. But now it's the state high court and the federal high court that now has jurisdiction over electricity issues. So if anybody should steal electricity or tamper with electricity meter or lines, you want to go and cut NEPA wire, the punishment is between 3 years to 5 years. Now, if you receive stolen electricity, you are not the one who stole it. You are not the main thief, but you received from the receiver, from someone who illegal source sent you. The punishment is 14 years. So don't just sit in your house and be using light that you don't know where it came from or who is paying for it or anything. It is if you know that this light was stolen by someone, maybe the person went to tap and you decided to tap, they will not know. when they catch you, you are facing 14 years imprisonment.
On that, there are incidences where people move into a new place and they meet a prepaid meter. They don't even know that this meter is, maybe it was taken from another place or stolen or however the meter got there, and they keep using it.
Yeah.
So if never comes to that kind of place and they are caught, they are definitely going to be liable.
Yes, now because you received it. I mean, they are supposed to pay for something. You are not paying for it. You are not asking questions.
You just have
Ask
to
questions so that
research.
you do the right thing is important. Then people who fight with I don't know if they do it in Lagos, right? But I know in some states, right? Whenever they want to come and cut light, and maybe 2 days before that time or 3 days, they've not had light in that community. People are just angry. Like, you are coming to collect bill, you are coming to paste meter, so that don't come here. We don't want to see, or you want to go and disconnect their lights because they've not paid and all of that. People start beating them. Some even like pull their ladder, and a lot of violence and horde has erupted from people, electricity officials and community people clashing and preventing them from, carrying out their duties. So the law is saying if you do that, if you try that now, you are either going to pay 2 million naira fine or you face 6 years imprisonment. So choose your struggle correctly. If you have issues, go to the electricity companies, report, make your complaints. Don't go and be fighting. Violence is not even good naturally. Yeah.
But
I hope this act states that when this act comes to implementation, states or government needs to know that, okay, there should be an agreement, there should be a law in this act that says that you must provide my people so hours
of light.
Yeah. So that because one thing you need to know is that light is power, light is life. If there is light, there's so much of a youth who wants to do something great. You're planning to have a barbing salon, you are skilled in cutting your hairs, but there is gross darkness everywhere. The first thing you're thinking is how much to buy fuel. And you know what fuel is talking about.
And
now.
Even the noise of the generator. The fume that comes out from it, it's not good for the environment.
Because even some parts, some very close countries to us here, you visit them and you will not find a single
generator,
set of generators. So what is happening differently here? So this act should state, and everybody should have, our governments, our top leaders should try as much as possible to provide us with some hours of electricity.
So they can't. If they put that in it, it's not.
Everybody will charge by. So
if it's not realistic, they can't. I'm not sure we are at the point where we can say that for every part of the country you can have, say, 10 hours of light every day or 20 hours.
States are now empowered to create their own.
So when they make their own laws, they can add that into their own law.
So how possible it is in other countries that would give light?
So that's what I'm saying, is that for now, that if it is now for a state, it is easy for a state to look at the level of electricity that they can generate per month or per day, how they can distribute it. They've carried out that data, they've calculated, and then they can say, okay, we can do 16 hours every day, we can do 15 hours every day, because this is the level that we can attain. Because it's not just about the electricity, right? They need the right megawatts, the right meter, the right connections and all to ensure that it even works, right? Yeah. So if you just have that electricity, you can pass it out, but you don't have the structure, you don't have I don't know what they call all of those meters and all of that can actually transmit and provide for all of these number of people or households, then it will be difficult for them to say, what if they promise you 24 hours light and you don't even see 1 hour light? So that's it. So, but with the states, like you mentioned, if the state is able to, when they make their own laws, then I think they can then agree, looking at the popularity in their state, to say, okay, this is the level of electricity that we can provide on a daily basis.
The provision of the act, like, if it's actually implemented, I feel it is possible, because there are states in Nigeria currently where some areas they enjoy like uninterrupted light. Especially if you go to the state capital. It's maybe when you go to the suburb. There are even some suburbs that enjoy electricity like constantly. So I feel if we can still achieve that with the electricity like still being centralized, how much more when it is now decentralized.
Yeah.
So I think it is actually very, very attainable.
As the number one of a country. So people will say that you have done something. If there is implementation in place and if you hold people responsible, if you hold people accountable. So if I'm the president, I will make sure that things work. I will make sure that every enemies of what I have implemented are being punished. So this thing must come to existence. Let people be accountable to say, so that you don't say, my government has been so porous, my government is so bad. So I will hold you responsible. So as the number one, as the government as a leader, you should make sure that things work, hold people accountable.
Yeah, and I think
act.
as people, right, we should be outspoken. We should know when to call out our government for bad behavior. So if you know in your community you are suffering from this, and your government have you've paid your tax, they have money to make it happen, they are not doing it. Call them out, speak up. Don't keep voting for nonsense people. Don't keep voting for people who you know that for the past 4 years they promised this, promised that, they didn't do it. You don't have light, you don't have water, you have bad roads. You can see all of these things. Speak out. When it is time to vote, don't go and be collecting 2,000, 1,000 and be voting in people who are not going to do anything. So let's also take it is our responsibility to ensure that we fight for our rights and speak out, so that we can call out our bad electorates. Yeah.
You know, we've mentioned that it's criminal offense and there is punishable. You know, there's punishments. There are terms of imprisonment and fines, like not even small amount of money that you'll be liable to if you keep committing all these electrical criminal offenses, stealing lights, punishing, electrical staff and all. So on these grounds, we're going to be closing the show. I hope you enjoyed the show just as we did over here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you click on the notification bell button so that you can be notified when I put out a content here. We hope to see you in our next video. Thank you.
Bye.